What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Rob Markman. It's not about me today at all, okay? Our guest is one of the most vibrant, elegant, ostentatious spitters that there is ever in rap, all right? 13 years ago today, his first major label debut, Port of Miami, came out. But now we're talking about this Port of Miami 2. We got the boss, Ricky Rose, man. Welcome to Genius.
Much love, man. Thank you for having me.
Nah, man. Thank you for coming to this long overdue.
Anytime.
I was telling people, we were talking off camera about our history, man. I was a young journalist freelancing at XXL. I wasn't even working at XXL. I was working in the mailroom, and I used to write articles at night and do interviews. And you were one of my first interviews for your Show and Prove article right before Port of Miami dropped. And I was telling you, all the stuff that you have now, this MMG empire, the idea of being one of the biggest rappers to ever do it, you had that confidence back then. And you had that vision back then. And the fact that you actually made it happen, man, I got to salute you for that and tip my hat off, man. With every album release, I think back to that time. And I'm like, yo, he really did everything he said he was going to do and more. So congratulations to you.
Man, I appreciate it. That Show and Prove article meant a lot to the boss. And I know when you gave me your number, you ain't think I would, harass you that much.
You
but
did.
Thank you for answering, brother. I needed that conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man. You used to call me all the time. I used to be in the mailroom. You know, I didn't care too much about the mailroom job, so it was easy to take a break. It's like, okay, Ross calling. Let's chop it up and talk what we're gonna talk about, man. But I'm glad we get to do it with the cameras on for the world to see.
Believe that.
Port of Miami, right?
Right.
The first one, all right? And the new album is Port of Miami 2. Why at this point in your career, what made you decide, what made the light switch go off and said it's time for the sequel?
For a lot of different reasons. For one, Port of Miami was, of course, the foundation for the empire I built. But sometimes you got to remind dudes. And I felt like every body of work I released, it had its own purpose, So Port of Miami 1 was the beginning, and, I understood what came with fame, and I knew I would overcome that, and that's why I released the album Triller. With Triller, I went to another level, and I said, okay, I see they gonna test me, and that's why I released Deeper Than Rap. All my titles meant basically where I stood at in time, and I felt like for me to actually challenge myself, it was to, hit the reset button, go back to the beginning, because this Port of Miami was so dope and it meant so much, on so many different levels. And I felt like the challenge of doing that Port of Miami 2, I felt like that really inspired me.
Well, let's talk about, because Port of Miami, the first one, the original, was a game changer in a way that, aside from being a dope MC yourself, you're a fan and a student of the game. And we could pull up any interview that you ever do, and you're always saluting a rapper who came before you, and not just from your city, from all over the map. We were just talking about Too Short before the cameras came on.
Right.
And life is too short.
Right.
You studied the game. In Miami, now if you're a student in the game, if you know Miami, the brand of music that Miami was mostly known for on a mainstream level was strip club, bass.
Go. And I
Poison
love
Clan,
it.
Luke.
I love it. Go. But I was raised on that and still love it to this day, but I knew that wasn't what I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I felt that from the beginning. Just watching the videos, I always enjoyed the party scene and the pool and the jacuzzi and the girls and all that. But I was like, that might be too many girls for Rose. I'm a little more private than that. I really might just need me one super bad one, you know what I mean? But that most definitely was in my mind from then.
So how do you break out of that? And again, I'm talking about the feat of it. It might be hard when your city is known for one thing. And this is when hip hop was super regional. So if you was at Atlanta, you had to sound like you was from Atlanta. If you was on the West, you had to sound like you was from the West. New York, you had to sound like you was from New York. You brought this hustling mentality. You kind of took Miami, the hustling video. You said, okay, everybody knows Miami. I'm going to take you across the bridge, the side that you don't see, to places where, like Lil Haiti or something where it really go down at. That could have backfired because when you do something that's not expected, you take a risk.
Right.
What gave you the confidence to do that?
And when you say that, I just realized that now. But back then, that never even crossed my mind. Nothing backfiring, because this really is the streets. This really is authentic. And I think what's so dope about me being here now at album number 10, if you ever doubted me from album number 1 and you see the position I'm in now, I think you may begin to believe I was believing what I was saying. And if
Right.
I didn't, it's like when I said I was the biggest boss, of course at the time I wasn't the biggest boss, but that was my perspective of where
Right.
I would end up. And that's how I always spoke things into existence.
Okay, that's a good question, because again, my first impression of you when I first met you, you were talking that talk.
Believe
And
that.
part of it was like, yo, is he crazy? Is this guy? But I always got the notion that you believed what you were saying.
Oh,
At the
most
beginning,
definitely.
did you believe it, or was like, I have to say this?
I would die about it.
Right.
So was I crazy? I don't know. It's people that love me that done told me, like, you got a problem with that. But is it really a problem, or is it I just really want what I really want?
Right.
And I mean that in the most positive way.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you growing up and it's not a lot of things you really great at. It's not a lot of things you're good at. I never won a spelling bee. I never had sports trophies.
Right.
I always wanted them, but I couldn't.
Right.
I weighed too much to steal a base playing baseball.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was too heavy for Optimist football.
Right.
What was I going to do?
Right.
I had to come up with different things. I wasn't the best at math. I remember the first time they wrote, I believe it was pre-algebra, A equals X. I just sat back in my chair like, I know this some fake shit.
Right.
And I would have loved to know my multiplication. I would have loved to learn algebra, but that really wasn't what I was good at.
Right.
What I was good at was reading, seeing films, comprehending them. Then after that film go off, trying my best in my own mind to write my own movie.
Right.
I would listen to a record before I was even an artist or an MC, and after it went off, I would ask myself, how would I done that? When I listen to LL Cool J, I'm bad. And when you listen to my first album,
it's on there.
That LL Cool J record touched me as a youngster. I'm bad. Right. And other rappers know I would enter the I was like, damn, if I did, I'm bad. And that's from way back then. In the first opportunity I had to do an album, I did a record called I'm Bad.
On Port of Miami.
And I finally did it the way I would have did. So that fulfilled something inside me for years. A fire that was burning for years.
That's hard. On the first album, there was so much lifestyle talk. Like it felt like, I guess a frame of reference at the time was Scarface. And maybe because on Push It, you sampled, the Push It to the Limit from Scarface.
Right.
Hustling gave you that. There was so much lifestyle talk on that album. And for the moment, Hustling, the biggest record in rap for its time, you know what I'm saying, classic record to this day, you can still throw it on and it goes off. But the record off of Port of Miami, the one that I heard that was like, oh, this could be 20-year career right here, like, was a record called Pots and Pans.
I knew you would say that.
Why is that?
Because that was really a ghetto spiritual.
Right.
That was really a record that me just speaking from a point of being a youngster, feeling the pain, understanding the pain, dealing with the pain, and still finding a way to overcome the pain.
Because on the record, and y'all got to go back and listen to the record if you never heard it or refamiliarize yourself. But on it, I mean, you talk about losing your dad, you talk about blowing the football scholarship, you talk about the real start of the street hustle and figuring out a way for yourself, right? So I'm listening to Port of Miami too. And there's a song called Turnpike Ike. And in my head, these two records, and I could be weird. I'm not saying that you meant it, but in my head, these two records relate because on Pots and Pans, the J-Rock on the hook, not TDE J-Rock, but J-Rock is on the hook singing, All I need is baking soda, some pots and pans, a little ice. I'll do what I can. Chick at home saying I'm no good. When the fuck am I gonna get out the hood? Right?
Right.
Chick at home. The chick at home saying I'm no good. So she, man, when you gonna get some money? When you gonna get up? When you gonna make something on yourself?
Right.
I hear Turnpike Ike. In place of a hook, there's no hook on Turnpike Ike. It's just a young lady narrating your fortune on the record. And to me, I'm like, this the rags to riches. If Pots and Pans was the rag, Turnpike Ike is the riches. This is I made it. She's not telling you get me out the hood no more. She's talking about your bank account and what you got.
Right. She counting the whips.
Talk about Turnpike Ike off of this new. It was just interesting to me because it really showed how far you came. What was your mentality going into that record?
You know, doing that record was Ike was really Turnpike Ike was an alias for Isaac Hicks, one of the biggest hustlers ever came from my city, Yayo, the cocaine capital. And Turnpike, of course, was, you know, the big vein leaving Miami, going through Florida, taking you up north. And that was the way all the hustlers took the work, through the Turnpike, you know what I mean? And, you know, the street game was always about importing and exporting. And so me talking about Turnpike Ike was really me taking something and flipping it. I'm going to take it to the next level. And for everybody that listened to me come from the mud to marble, that's always been one of my favorite sayings, from mud to marble. It's fine to start in the mud, but just know where your direction going. And so that was just me really talking about coming up and having Shorty on the chorus and me just asking her basically what it looked like to you.
Right.
From the outside looking in, what it looked like to you. How many cars we got? 50 cars, you know what I'm saying? You know, what the house, oh, we got 20 house, you know? And so it was just one of those things that I just thought would be dope for the middle of the record.
Right. And it's ill because I think if you've been a Rose fan for a long time, it's like a payoff. It's like, you know, for everybody rooting for you, you know, that's the you know, the 3-pointer in crunch time or whatever. It's like, oh shit, he really, again, it goes back to me saying, yo, he did everything he said he was gonna do.
I did, and I meant it. And that's the only thing from that first album. It's only so much you could say. You know, it's only so much you could say. And like, yo, I pray y'all understand this is as real as it get.
Right.
My big homies that gave me the game, if I get in this industry and if I don't accomplish this, I did nothing. Don't even talk about it.
Man, I'd be remiss if we go any further. And because on Turnpike Ike, you shout out a lot of people that mean a lot to you, and then you give a rest in peace shout out to Black Bo.
Black Bo.
And who also appears on your album cover, Independent, that you're holding. How, you know, Bo passed the complications related to clogged arteries and health issues. And him being so close to you and such an integral part of your team. How did his passing affect the making or inspire the making of this album?
Oh, in so many ways. It made me really put it on hold for a little while. I was like, yo, I gotta chill, you know what I mean? And then a few months after that, I ended up in the hospital. So it was just really like, yo, I gotta get my shit together all the way around the board. We all do.
Right.
You know, that just became the conversation of everybody, because, you know, we got the studio house, we got different spots where we all meet up at, like on a daily basis. And, you know, we just all got to move better. And, you know, do this better. This going to help us. This going to help us on a personal level.
Right.
Because we elevating, we get money, we doing everything. But, you know, we got to, you know, get on our A game health-wise, life-wise, on all our personal levels, you know. So that most definitely just was a true mic check.
Right. I remember where I was. I was coming home from LA and the flight was delayed when I heard the news about you and your situation and your health scare. And I remember praying in the airport.
Believe
you know
that.
what I'm saying? Because you
Appreciate that.
are, nah, for real.
Believe that.
Because you are one of our heroes. And you one of the guys that we look up to and that we respect. And in mind, just hoping everything will be okay, not just for you and for your family.
Believe that.
And I know you've been you're a private guy, but I always feel like if you want to know about Rose's life, any details of his life, if you listen to the music, it comes out and you pour it into air. So I hear a record like I Still Pray.
Right.
And when you said woke up out of coma, frozen in the moment, you can have the biggest click, but you're gonna die a loner.
Mm.
And there was another line that comes a little later, like I'd give you back the money just to have my health.
Mm.
How bad did it really get? Because TMZ reports one thing, right? And
Right,
and it looks scary. And
Right.
me being in the media, I know how things could be misconstrued, how things could go. And I never quite believe anything that I read
Right.
from anywhere. I mean, was it that dire? Did it feel like life and death?
Well, it was a real situation. I wasn't born epileptic, but I began having seizures because I was refusing to sleep. I was drinking codeine. I was doing a lot of different things. And so I began having seizures. But mine would be a situation where I would have a seizure and 15 minutes later, I'd be smoking and back to doing whatever it was I was doing. I never really felt pain or nothing. What made that last seizure I had different was I had a seizure and something came up and it came back down. So it made it different. So, I was rushed to the hospital. And what the hospital did was, because of who I was and my status, they put me on the floor where it was, the best doctors, the best surgeons, but you only really got on that floor if something went, bad on your brain or you had a heart attack, because the walls were all glass. They wanted to be able to see you visually.
Right.
And so me being on that floor, the news spread like he either had to have a heart attack or, it was something like that, which wasn't,
wasn't the case.
No, that wasn't the case.
Okay.
So 3 days later, I was back at home, and I just really was, once again, reflecting on Black Bolt, just thinking about all my homies, and it was just like, damn, I got to get on my A game. So I just kind of pushed the reset button on the album. Like, I got a whole nother meaning and purpose now. Let's put all that to the side. I want to make sure I make this clear.
And then it comes out in the book, and that's a big theme on the album. I feel like there's so much on this album about you reflecting not just on your legacy, but your mortality. Like, Fascinated is another record when you say I be crying in my car, nightmares of dying in my car.
Right.
And again, you're somebody that we have a relationship. We don't talk very often, but I hear the music and I'm like, man, I hope he's okay. Like, what is he going through?
And what makes it so dope about the records is when you record records like that and you think about Nipsey and you try to put all that passion into the joint. And that's what I wanted to do. Just for everybody, you see the other side. I want to show you that other side too, though.
Right.
Let you in on the other side. And that's what that was.
Stresses.
That's one of my favorite joints.
Fascinated is such a dope record. And, it made me wonder, I mean, because, I don't know if people forgot it, and when we seen Nipsey pass, rest in peace, in the most tragic and heinous way.
And I hated it, social media and just all of that. I hated that.
Yeah, it was terrible. But, I mean, you had your own incident in 2013, that shooting, and I'm wondering how, like, is there still like a PTSD that affects you or a scare like that's still within you?
Honestly, that's a good question, but I don't believe it so.
Okay.
And that just comes from me, unfortunately, coming up and seeing me losing close ones to me in the streets in violent ways. So even when it happened to me, I just dealt with it in the same way it happened to my other homies. We gonna move on and get past this. We gonna move tighter, and then we gonna do what we gotta do to make sure it don't happen no more. You know what I mean?
Right. Nah, man, but it's dope too, man, because Fascinated, you give us the other side. Like what you said, like we hear the riches, but we hear the stress that comes with it. One guy that's been dealing with the stress is so happy I see him in the news lately. Bogus Charms with Meek Mill.
Yeah.
Can you talk about where Meek is now? Like, look, man, there was the battle with Drake, people kicking him down. There was his freedom taken away. There's all this, and then it comes out in the news. First of all, Meek has an amazing album with championships, like super successful, on top of the world. Then you hear Dream Chaser signed label deal with Roc Nation. On the same day, you hear Case tossed out, off probation, getting a new trial.
God is great.
And the way things have turned around for Meek, and then to hear you guys rapping back to back on this album on Bogus Charms, I feel like you saw Meek's greatness in him first.
Without a doubt.
What did you see that kind of eye for talent? Meek, Wale, you signed amazing guys through through the years.
And I think what's the dopest about all that is me just trusting my heart, my ear. Because Wale was an artist that was signed to a major label, and that project may not have went the way both parties would have wanted.
Yeah, attention
That would have,
deficit,
that would have influenced the average person on, in 2011, 2012. I was almost, possibly the hardest artist in the game.
Facts.
And I could have did a label deal with any label. I could have signed any artist at that time. And I didn't let none of that sway me from following my heart, which was Wale, him being a true poet and me understanding what I represented in the streets. But I believed in, lyricism. When I look around here and I see Black Star, when I think about Tribe Called Quest, and when I think about Jay Dilla, certain things, and I seen that in Wale. When I met Meek Mill had been around T.I.'s label and other labels, and I said, he has a purpose. What he's fighting with his convictions and all that, I seen him, through that struggle the whole time. And that's when I created a record called Tupac Back.
Yeah.
And we put it on a compilation, one of the self-made compilations, and in no way was I saying he was Tupac, but what I was saying was he has that same purpose. He's going through those same struggles. That same soldier that the streets need to see. And that's what I was saying.
Also, too, just to your credit, to your ear, again, putting people on, creating a platform, Tupac Back, a lot of people, I don't know if they remember, one of the first records, maybe one of the first placements produced by Mike Will Made It.
Right.
Early on, and we know when we see what he's become,
Right.
not just as a producer, but as an executive. And that's why we look up to you, man. That's why I say things like that, like the way you've affected culture and the people around you have affected culture.
And man, it just feel good. So we gotta salute Meek Mill, for all his accomplishments, and we gotta salute Jay-Z for him seeing the vision in my little homie and giving him that opportunity. And we most definitely gotta salute Double MG for creating a platform where artists could blossom into these next level situations. So to me, that's dope.
I want to ask you about another record, Maybach Music VI.
Right.
Now, the Maybach Music series is, people buy Rose out. Like, it's one of the ones, you remember when you used to buy albums when you was a fan, and it was just, you would skip to maybe the joint that was produced by DJ Premier. You would skip ahead.
Right.
Maybach Music is one of those records that you might buy a Rose album, but you got to see what that Maybach Music V sound like first, or that 4, or that 6. So, it had came out that, Pusha-T and Wayne on Maybach Music VI. Where did that vision come from to put those two titans together on the record along with yourself? Produced by the Justice League, who are also amazing.
Produced by the Justice League, where the vision really came from, where, me seeing the differences Wayne, my brother Drake was having with Pusha-T.
Yeah.
And Pusha-T was somebody I was always cool with. So I just felt maybe this could be an opportunity for me to create that conversation. So what I did was I got the production from the Justice League. I sent the record to Wayne. Wayne blazed it. Next Level Vibe. I got that back. I sent the instrumental to Pusha T. When I think about the situation, I've always wanted to be a big homie to anybody that I rock with. Mm-hmm. Anytime, the situations, it's almost like if Drake ever in a situation, if I could help fix it, if Meek ever in a situation, if Wale, they're my homies, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And what I did was, that's what I did with this record. And it's not a question to me of will they ever get past it, because to me, it has came and went.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just me I love battle rapping and this and that.
You've been involved in them too? Yeah, contact sport.
For years, but I also, me being involved in it for years, I also learned that it can also give you a false sense of success.
Right.
When you in a battle rap, it ain't nothing really gonna come from that positively.
Right.
Because if it was, I would still be doing it every day. And so anytime I could let my homies know that, I let them know that. And so I put the record together. Are they gonna get past it? I'm sure one day that's gonna come. But the real question to me was, is this the time? You understand? So I put the record together, and is the record gonna come out the way I had it, or had the idea of it? We don't know.
Time will tell.
Yeah, time will have to tell us that. You know what I mean?
But you took a shot, and your intent was to do something monumental and some heartfelt for two guys that you care about.
Because I knew after the record possibly could be that conversation, and it could just be a 3-minute conversation, and that could be dead. But like I said, either way, I feel that day gonna come. Is the time now? I'm not sure,
see.
and it might not be.
And you talk about, and what you're saying, because I hear consistency again. I always say, if you want to know about Rose and who he is, listen to the music, right? Triple platinum or For Rather You Than Me, when Meek and Drake on in the middle, or the dust is still settling from their thing, you said, I had a phone call with Drake so we could fix the madness. And it's funny, you see where Drake and Meek are now, they're in a great place. You know what I'm saying? So you always, like, this is not something new. This is not a new trait that you just developed. This has been your thing.
Right. And anytime, and I meant that. And like I say, I've learned from that experience. So anytime if I was sitting in a room with any of my homies, I would let them know, if you have an issue, put that on the table. You could put it out there. But that back and forth along, nah. Once you reach the peak, you move on. And I know you may think it's something else to come from it, but that's it.
That's it.
It's a flash in the pan, brother. You get nothing from that.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? And so,
it's funny because you have in your catalog, you have battle records and diss records as well.
I love diss records.
They're not the first thing that come to mind when I think of Rose and I think of your catalog. It's the lush instrumentation. It's the Maybach Music series, the storytelling, the deeper than rap. So it's funny, while it is entertaining for the moment, I think very few artists is it career defining. I think for KRS-One it was. Like, there's instances you could see it, but
right. But
by and large,
me coming up and really studying the game, studying the culture, the challenge in the sport of hip hop has always been dope.
Right.
But what establishes a career is incredible music.
Yeah.
And it's a difference. And when we really brothers on the inside, I would love to see us making incredible music with each other, versus, especially when we know it's not gonna go nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
You and Drake, Gold Roses.
Gold Roses.
Amazing record. You also did Money in the Grave.
Money in the Grave.
Recently. These kind of collaborations, how do they happen? How do you decide who goes on what, man? Because I heard Gold Roses and it just fits so perfectly on this Port of Miami too. Money in the Grave is a dope record too, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like the best record out of the bunch is on your album. Like how do you decide when y'all create, like, what goes where, who gets what?
You know,
like,
a lot of times we create the music differently.
Right.
A lot of times, Drake done pulled up to my crib and we play different records. We go through different things, and we go back and put it together, and vice versa. And this was one of them things. I happened to be over in Korea, and I posted a cool picture, and Drake hit me, and we chatted a little bit. We talked about a few ideas, and he sent me the beat for Money in the Grave, and I knocked it out, sent it right back to him. We kicked it a little bit more, and actually we had the conversation, and Nipsey came up in it, and we was just going back and forth. And I know I said, I pray my homie had just an idea or got a glimpse to see how much of an impact he really left on this world. Not just the culture, not just the rap game, but on the world. I pray he just had an idea, And I know he can see it now, but I really do. I mean that from the deepest. I really hope he knew, because that's something I told him. I said, I see this in you. This was in 2009. I told him this.
Right.
But that was the conversation me and Drake had, and he was like, man, you're right, man. I wish I get to smell my flowers while I'm here.
Right.
And that's where Gold Roses come from.
Oh, that's hard. Okay, I get it now. That's hard. Yeah, I got the similar saying, man. It's too late at the wait. You know what I'm saying? And when you think about Nip, but I think Nip was a guy who he always knew where he stood with you. I feel like, first of all, he's on the album.
He is.
You know what I'm saying? Him and Tiana Taylor.
Right.
Rich Lifestyle, right?
Right. Rich Lifestyle.
And but this is not the first time y'all collaborated.
Not at all.
I mean, Fountain of Youth or for Self-Made too. There's many collaborations.
And one of, not to cut you off, but one of our more recent ones was Buy Back the Block remix.
Back the Block, yeah.
and just what that record stand for. And when I thought of West Coast, Nipsey came to mind. He's on this. He understands
because he lives it. He
because
puts it into practice.
right, and those the conversations we had.
Wow.
That's what we always spoke on. Real estate, ownership. Let's start small. Let's don't be scared to start small. Instead of renting a big house in the hills in California, like most artists do, buy you one that's on the flat, but you own it. They can make a new car. They can make a new this. They can't make that block over.
Right.
They can't make that corner over. You know what I mean? Let's buy that. Wow. Let's not buy stocks and bonds. Let's buy something we could touch. You know what I'm saying? Let's be able to pull up to it. And
that was your relationship. I don't even know if people remember you were you had such admiration for him. You wanted to sign him over to MMG.
I did.
It didn't work out. He
Right.
had his own plans for his own independence, right?
Right.
But it never soured. You always spoke about him with the same admiration, even though
Right.
he didn't sign a deal with you. Or
I'm
whatever,
I'm one of those type of entrepreneurs. I'm a real boss. I understand the difference between. That's what a lot of these cats got to realize, and I pray they realize it sooner than later. It's the difference between the streets and this industry of business, of creating content, creating music, putting together tours. And that's what it was always about. And when I had the opportunity to present a deal to him, that's when I really wasn't traveling back and forth to LA as much. But I saw his vision, and I just wanted to let him know I was not just telling him that, I was willing to invest in it.
Right.
And, we stayed in touch. And even though we didn't close that deal, we stayed in touch and just spoke on a lot of different other things. You know what I mean?
His verse on the record that y'all did off of Port of Miami too, both of y'all verses, but it gives you chills in that way, that just how special he was and how special we lost, because he's talking the same talk. His talk is so consistent. His message is so, like, he knows who he is. In a lot of ways, how you knew who you were in the beginning of your career and you just followed through.
I remember when Nip first mentioned to me, what I thought about the $100 mixtape.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It's futuristic. But the hood, let's just do it for the hood.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not only that, that's good business. That's a good mold. And let's focus on the hood versus, and he had his own vision, his own direction. And he just was always remaining creative and putting his money back into himself. And once I seen that, I knew I was a fan for life.
That's dope, man. Vegas Residency, produced by Justice League, and my boy Knock got some production on there too. I'm a big fan of his. You rap, you have this rap, and I didn't know if I got the line right, and correct me if I got it wrong. Went from battle raps, now we wearing MAGA hats. Was it battle raps?
Right.
Went from battle raps, now we wearing MAGA hats. I took that as a reference to Kanye.
Without a doubt.
And you and him have had such a relationship even before Port of Miami,
right,
coming up together, figuring out how y'all was gonna make names for yourselves,
right,
in this game. So I just want to know what moment inspired that line. What were you trying to really get across with that line?
Really, what it was nothing personal. It wasn't in a disrespectful. It wasn't a diss. It wasn't, it wasn't none of that. It was just facts. Me sitting up and I'm seeing, okay, I see what's going on. I see the temperature. I see Kanye standing next to Donald Trump. Okay, this is something I gotta address. And whatever it is, somebody like Mark will break it down to me, whatever this is, and when I repeat it, and that's what I opened the record up with. Since everybody expressing their feelings, let me express mine, you know what I mean? And basically that's what I talked about, just, going from one spot to here we are. And that's what the Vegas residency really meant for me, going from all the way in the bottom of South Florida to the furthest part on the West Coast. And it was just, and I tried to squeeze everything I could talk about in between.
Okay, so fitting with the and thank you for clarifying that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think seeing Kanye with MAGA had an extra. I think everybody was just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Like,
and that was
like, what's going on here?
Right, and that was just the first time I seen it. It wasn't like, people are pretty much over that now. I think they get it and see what it was. But I'm talking the first time. Whoa, it's different. And you know, that's why Vegas Residency is actually the oldest record that's on the album. The majority of the album is maybe a few months, the
Right,
last few months. Because I'm one of the people that believe in, I could be wrong, but
right,
the newer my music is, the better I feel about it, the
for
more I
sure.
play it more. You know, I'm just one of them dudes. It's kind of like sneakers. They
Right.
classics and put them in, but once that new box come in,
I need that.
I'm
I need
wearing
to.
them tomorrow.
I need to pull up on you one time. I just need to see what's in the Rose vault. Like if Rose had a lost tapes, like how Nas does the lost tapes. I want to know
Man,
what you not putting out. You know what I'm
man,
saying?
I got so much dope music, but sometimes it's almost like I got to work with the legendary Bobby Womack
I know we spoke
before his
about that.
passing, and
Yeah.
I cut the mic on and I lined up 3 incredible records. All these records could be the next 3 Maybach Musics.
Wow.
I'm talking next level. And it was just so powerful. His voice just so strong that I just got him put up. I don't even want to
Wow.
mess with it yet. I'm funny, you know, it's funny like that. I'm everything not just to get it and run to I'm finna sell it and go triple platinum.
Right.
Nah,
Timelessness too,
this
though.
right here is, let's put this up. We can't do nothing with this.
Right.
We may not never put it. It's like that dope.
Next time I'm in the A, man, I'm pulling up on you, man. I just want to hear a snippet, man.
I
30
got you.
seconds.
I
I
got
promise you, I
I
won't tweet about it.
I got you, brother. I got you.
One thing, it's funny that you talk about Vegas residency, where you talk about kind of from the A to the B, where we started and where we came from. One other line that stood out, and again, it's consistent in what you're saying. I lost some weight, now designers want to get to know me. And I wanted to touch on that just a bit because I'm not sure if people really know the lengths that you would go to stay fly all of these years as a big man, knowing that these high-end fashion designers don't even make clothing in your size.
Right.
So a lot of times it was customization, right? It might have been
It
buying
was.
the two.
Shout out to Talia,
Yeah.
Kiss Some Couture, but a lot of my clothes for the majority of the time I was in the game was really tailor-made because I was a big guy. I was around 340,
Yeah.
340 pounds, 350. I'm a little maybe 265 now. You know what I'm saying? It's a big difference. But to me, fashion always went hand in hand with music. You know what I mean? I never felt one was more important than the other. Because if your music was dope and if you couldn't dress to me, it would throw off the whole vision. I may not even want to hear the music no more. Because
Right.
when I seen Eric B. and Rakim covers for the first time, when I saw them with the Dapper Dan, you know, like when I told that when I met him, like, I've been looking for you for 30 years, buddy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like paid in full. Like the cover spoke, I was, blown away.
Right.
And so I knew I wanted my music to have a vintage feel to it. So I always wanted to wear silk shirts and different things that maybe the youngsters at that time was wearing red monkey jeans, and that's cool. But when you go back to Mafia music, I had on burgundy tailor-made silk shirts, and and I still wear the same vibe now, but I just had to perfect it.
Right.
The same way with my music. I made Port of Miami 1, but I had to perfect the sound, meeting different producers. Even though I still collaborate with Cool and Dre, and I still collaborate but you got to perfect it and keep going to the next level.
Right. Now, definitely always, going to the next level. And I just wanted to address that because I think it's so important that the fashion industry pay attention to hip hop.
The fashion most
and
definitely.
the black youth.
And me making that reference is, and I really meant that, Dolce and Gabbana, now when I wear their things, now Rick, we need to do different things. And,
Right.
I'm not following that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah. Because hip hop really sets the trends in the world. And how many times the doors have been shut.
If you put on something that go against hip hop,
Right.
you just made the biggest mistake in your career.
Right. Right. It's real.
That's real language.
Nah, for real. So that line stood out to me, man. Look, we could talk all day because I think your music is just that rich.
Much
right?
love, much love.
The last thing, I want to do one thing. I want to do something a little different with you because I think your catalog deserves it, man. You have a really dope catalog, and we often on Twitter when we get in our group chats amongst ourselves, me, the homie Charlemagne, the homie B-Dot, the homie Hovain, we debate about what the best Rose album is. So I wanted to bring out your albums, and I wanted to see if Rick Ross can rank in order in favorite your albums, your 10 albums now. If you want to go, we can go any order you want to go.
Let me see them.
Check them out.
You know,
and I'll just lay them out in a certain order so the fans can see it.
Of course, I would love to have been able to listen to a few tracks just for memory purposes, because I love all my music for different reasons. The same way I title my albums, I create the music as well, you know, based on where I'm at in my life. You know what I mean? So the Port of Miami was, you know, I wanted to create this album and have my city name in the album. And, you know, if it didn't do good, I would always be a hood star forever.
Right.
And that was, you know, the outlook of it. And it most definitely became the most significant of my albums, Port of Miami, thus far. So
that's number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's number one.
I'm going to throw this right here.
You know, that's number one. My second album was Triller. And I titled that because I understood, I began to see what come with fame, what come with fortune and celebrity. And I was like, yo, if they gonna test the boss, I'm gonna have to obviously let them know that I'm much triller than this. And so this was the second album, and it was a lot of dope records on this album. This was one of those albums you could put on, and you know what I mean? And it's dope. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm just trying to mix it up for you so I can make this interesting.
I feel you.
You know, y'all understand that?
This is definitive. Come on.
I'm trying to make this interesting. But that's the most significant, right? That's what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to do is, this deeper than rap, right? Yeah. That's when, by the time I was at my third album, I understood that I would be challenged. I wouldn't be able to, because I was under the assumption all the work that my big homies put in, where I came from, you know, what I established in my hood, I thought that would resonate around the world. But I realized by this album, you're going to have to put in some work. Y'all going to have to put All Black back on, and let them know it's much deeper than rap. Right. So I'm going to put this right there. Okay. Just based on its significance, because I realized, I was going to have to, chastise a few people.
Listen, and all the aggressiveness aside, that got that rich off cocaine, of course, which is one of the greatest rose joints ever.
You see, if I was listening to that, I might have put it first. You never know. Mastermind, this was a very dope album. This was the album where I really took a lot of paper that I was doing with other things and really began to invest. That's where, the Wingstop franchises came in, Checkers, one time for the beard oil, Rich by Rick Ross. Show me the beard oil. I love Khaled for doing that.
Shout out Khaled.
Yeah, shout out Khaled. And just doing a lot of different things that I think, us as artists and entrepreneurs, let's remain creative outside of the music as well. And I think that's what I did with Mastermind. Yeah.
Another dope album. Nobody is probably my favorite joint off of there. You had the joint with Keith Sweat on there. Yeah, that's a hard album.
No, that most definitely was a fun album to make as well. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people gonna be talking crazy, but Teflon Don, this was the album where I knew I was gonna take over the game. I understood, and I wasn't just talking, but I was putting in the work. That's when I was in the studio 18 to 20 hours a day, every day. That's when I knew I was gonna launch my record label. I was gonna have some of the biggest artists in the game. And of course, I kicked the door with Triple C, and we just kept growing. Yeah. And Teflon Don, I really felt, I went in Def Jam, I broke the bank.
Most certainly.
I told them, whatever y'all was thinking before, forget about it. Do yourself the biggest favor and quadruple that. Then multiply it by 2. Then whatever the taxes would have been, put that on top.
Right.
It's called a Teflon Don. Zoom in on it. You know what I'm saying?
That's that Freemason on there. I'm Not a Star. BMF. on Teflon. That's a classic. That's a classic record.
That's a special joint.
That's a classic record.
That's most definitely a special joint. God Forgives, I Don't. That's when, if you listen to how my titles tie into each other after me establishing I was the Teflon Don and the biggest in the game, and I was ready to go to battle or go to war with anybody, I would invest time and money in and making you look so minuscule that it will humiliate your children and make people want to change their last name. You know, that's how passionate I was with winning. I really wanted to humiliate like your mom. Like I ain't want her to feel comfortable going to Whole Foods because Rose just dissed her son. And it was like, damn, what can you do to stop him from doing this? Because they look at me different at work. But anyway.
You all, something wrong with you. They right. You crazy, bro. You different.
You know, they tell me that, but I tell them, you're the one that's crazy because you should understand me. Understand me, please. And this right here was basically after making all the other things clear. I just wanted you to know I still don't forgive you.
God forgives.
I still don't forgive you. I still, if I caught you walking down a dark alley, I still would take advantage of it. I still, after all the success, if I caught you down bad, I'm going to do you dirty. Why? I don't know. But it's something about, you know, once you get put on that list, you're on the list. God Forgives, I Don't. You know what I mean? You feel me? Me speaking on that, no. God Forgives, I Don't. And if I did catch you down bad in the alley, I would rather it be you than me. Who deserves, you know, it's so many ways I could spin that, but rather you than me. It just applied, you know what I mean? Because that's how we gotta hustle. Lord forbid if something was to happen to you. You know, if your son was in the barbershop getting a haircut, those guys that you grew up with wouldn't pay for his haircut. You know that.
Absolutely.
You know that.
You take care of your own.
He got to dig in his own pocket. Yeah. Whatever it was, it could have been your best friend. Y'all was on the baseball team. Y'all went out of town, got the trophies, used to hug and all that. That's cool. He won't pay for your son's haircut. So if it ever came down to between me and you was down bad, I'm sure I would take advantage of you. I'm sure I would say a prayer later on that night and I would wake up the next day feeling fine. I always have.
I'm just glad we friends, dog.
No, we family.
And I would take care of your son's haircut. I just want you to know, like, if ever,
would you?
Absolutely. If ever you needed it. I said, Rose used to call me when I was in the mailroom.
You know that means a lot.
And believe when nobody would. So I could definitely take care of a haircut.
80% of these dudes wouldn't even speak to your son.
Right.
They would just tell whoever they was with, you know, that's Rob.
Right.
Little man right there.
You're right.
But to actually speak to him and say, keep your $8, little man. Right. I'm going to pay for that haircut.
Right. I'm saying, my brother. Price went up, too. I don't know where you get $8 haircuts from, but I feel it's a little more. You know, well, they come to you. The barber come to you. It's different when the barber come to you.
I'm gonna keep it real. The barber,
it's different when the barber
I
come
try
to
you. I try to tip them because a lot of times they come sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I be walking around on the phone. I'm smoking. They got to put up with a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But what's the going rate for the haircut at the barbershop?
Might do for a kid's haircut. Might do 15.
15 for a kid.
Yeah.
So OG like yourself, what it is?
My haircuts is 23, and then then plus the tip, we talking about 35.
35?
Yeah,
they throw in the hot rag.
Of course, whatever I need.
Whatever you need, the shampoo and conditioner.
Whatever I need.
I'm with that.
I don't wait neither. I walk right into the fresh barbershop. I walk right into the barbershop and
in
get
the
right
chair.
in the chair. Yeah.
That's worth 35.
Because you tip good.
That's 30. That's worth 35. So.
And if a kid's in front of you, look, if you gotta go, look, I'll pay for your haircut and I just.
But you make the kid get out the chair if you needed
If I needed to come interview Rose and I was on the time crunch.
And if the little man was getting the lineup and you had business to handle,
just hold on, but I got you.
You could tell little man, yo, little man, I'm finna get you a little sausage biscuit from next door. And you just,
Checkers. Yeah.
Checkers or lemon pepper wings. I like
delicious.
That. You use a sharp, man.
Delicious.
But me growing up, nobody never gave me no money to get out the chair.
Right.
Or pay for my haircut. I'm gonna think about that.
Let's get through this ranking, man. I feel like this is amazing. We could do this all day.
No, we could. This album right here, Triller. You know, man, it might be one. This is one of my best. You know, I don't know, one of my favorites. You know, I was just a youngster. I was in the back of my first Maybach. They digitally removed my blunt because I told them I wanted to be smoking. So if you wonder why my hands was like that, I had a nice L rolled up, and it tasted so good that I didn't even mind. The photo shoot was, I forgot how many hours. I was in a parking lot in the middle of Carol City, the flea market parking lot that's no longer there. They knocked it down, but that was just a monumental moment for me.
Okay, are we going Triller?
Yeah, that's Triller. I'm gonna say the Black Market. This is got some potent music on here. Silk Road and so many. This was one of those reflective albums where I wanted the music to move at a slower pace and just talk with the words. And that's what I did.
Okay.
Hood Billionaire. This that Ghetto Rich record. You know, I collaborated with a bunch of Memphis artists for this album. Yeah. I launched maybe 5 different franchises in Memphis. And while I was in Memphis, I said I want to do something different for this market. I collaborated with K. Michelle. I did Elvis Presley Boulevard. Yeah. I collaborated with Yo Gotti. I did the Elvis Presley Boulevard remix with MJG, with Project Pat, with, you know, and the list goes on. So it was maybe 4 or 5 records with just Memphis artists, and I never made that a big deal, but I just wanted to do something different.
An important city for hip hop, historical, important city for music in general.
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. Suave House Records.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this right here. August 9th, Port of Miami 2. I'm going to let you all judge where this stand. I know me, personally, this is most definitely a significant album. And to me, what was dope was when you look at the album covers,
right?
You know, it was all about my city and where I was from, and the medallion that I wore was Triple C, Carol City Cartel, my homie. And I lost one of my closest homies, so I put his face in the medallion, you know what I mean? And so here we are.
That's dope, man. I appreciate you taking the time to even discuss this, man. Again, I think it's one of the most important discographies in hip hop. And, you know, it's far from over when you listen to Port of Miami too. The stories, the pictures you paint just get more grand, more lush, man. And I'm glad we got to talk about some of it, man. We haven't done this in a while.
Long time. Feel great.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, for coming to Genius to break this down with us.
No
appreciate
problem.
You for the conversation and the art that you create, my brother.
Man, I appreciate you being true to the game, remaining true to the game, even after, you know, getting all the paper. You got your big houses in the mountains, baby. You know what I mean? I know what time it is, man. I know what time it is,
listen,
baby.
You know, it ain't
Genius.
It ain't Holyfield's
crib.
To
the next level. I'm proud of you, man. I know what it is. This is a long way from the mailroom.
Right, it's a long way from the. You know, I still got place to go to get that old Holyfield estate, but man, we on our way.
Man, you always welcome. Anytime. You family.
My man. Thank y'all for watching. For the record, definitely check out Rose's new album, Port of Miami 2. And talk to us in the comments. We talk back. This is For the Record. See you next week. Peace.